All right. In this episode, I am super honored and excited to be talking to my next guest who started off his career as a founder, then as an investor at 500 Global, leading the product strategy and portfolio value there. He now works with founders, coaching them through how to build successful startups. He's also doing venture building. And did I mention he's also an author as well? Vijay Rajendran, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Lee. Pleasure to be here and excited to join you and your audience today.
Yeah, I'm super excited to dive into some topics with you today about, funding and, some of the mistakes founders make and how we
Yeah,
can get over them, right? But before we do that, your career spans over 20 years, right?
yeah.
So if you could sum it up in just a few sentences, what would you say your story and career has been like?
I am someone who has been or is of service to entrepreneurial leaders. That's it.
Yeah.
And they take so many different shapes and sizes and forms, but that is my purpose, is to like help them create extraordinary outcomes.
It's not easy, is it? It's not
Yeah,
easy. It's
no,
one of the hardest things that anyone can go through. But it's been a dream, especially in America, right? It's one of the dreams to start your own business and have that
yeah.
financial freedom, but nobody really understands what it takes to do that. So if you could tell me, just from your experience, what are some of the
Mhm.
things that, it really takes to be a great founder?
there's there's many different types of founders. The people who are being the most successful figure out how to to start something with really insufficient resources, right? Like when I see pitches of or people coming to me advice and saying like, oh, I need just to get started, $500,000 or $800,000 in order to fund the business. Like that's it's like no, you need to like build, you need to start, right? So
Hmm.
people who don't need permission to start, people who can just get going and lift themselves off the ground are are unique. Like most of us are looking around asking for permission when the people who get started are the ones who are getting ahead. I'm reminded of a quote from Mark Twain. And it's like, the best way to get started is to get going, right? Like, or to get ahead is to get going, to get started, to get going, I should say. So like that becomes more true the more and more people I meet who, they talk about these are the things I'm doing and this is what's next. And here's what I need. And the train is leaving the station. I'm making great momentum. And so it's that momentum that
Hmm.
builds and grows that defines these really great founders.
Yeah, so many people have these great ideas that they have, but they just keep planning and planning and planning, and they don't get out and talk to customers. Maybe they are developers, right? And they just sit behind the desk and start coding away without ever talking to somebody. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a big founder mistake, I would say.
yeah, absolutely. And the reason I say entrepreneurial leaders is because there are some people who are doing great things inside of larger companies or later stage startups, and they aren't necessarily the founder of that business. They may not even be the CEO, but they are creating momentum and they're moving the needle inside of their companies. And so it's a privilege to work with them to create something that isn't normally possible because of not just the vision and the ideas of what they have, but the way they create a flywheel, create some momentum, create some action that is defining for that particular company.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Well, if you were to advise anyone who's looking to start their business right now, like how could we practically just get started? What's the first step do you think that a founder should take?
A lot of people say, if I only had an idea, I would say, like, oh, I don't know where to begin, or and the thing is, many people are successful because of a deep sense of empathy for
Mm,
their customers and their problems. And so, what does that mean? That means there's probably things that you've experienced in your daily life that you are fundamentally unhappy with or dissatisfied with. And it's these people who are almost unreasonably motivated to do something because they're so dissatisfied with the status quo that they go out and start a business that others would say, oh yeah, that's a really great idea, because they recognize it, and the problem is so well felt by the founder. separately, it could be something where you've worked in a particular industry for 10 or 20 years. You don't have to be starting from no prior knowledge, but you understand the problems inside of that space super well, and you say, okay, within a big company, we can't solve this. But if I come in with a challenger product or a tool that people who have been in my shoes or I've been in theirs, like can understand, and we can see adopted in the industry, then that profound understanding like helps you get started. Just knowing everything isn't enough, and no one does. And that's why, as you point out, right, like people need to go out and talk to customers, which is very weird and very difficult, and I know like culturally sometimes very hard. But it's that step of doing customer development and user-based research and the discovery that actually sets you up to work on the right things, stop working on the wrong things, and even create conversations that generate design partnerships and sales and proof of concepts, whatever you need that looks like the next step.
100%. And I've made this mistake several times throughout my journey at Antler and like trying to start, my own thing because I talked to maybe 10 customers like, "Oh, yes, I have like, a good indicator that
Mm-hmm.
everything's good, so I'm just going to start building already." No, you have to talk like hundreds of customers. It takes a long
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah. It's really funny too. Like the process you follow is as important. Why? Because you could talk to the first person, and I've seen this happen before. The first person you talk to says, "This is great. I
Hmm.
want this," right? And can you get when can I start using it? And you're like, "Man, I have a customer, and maybe we'll do a pilot together, and figure it out." And then you stop, right? Because you're like, "I got to go build this thing for the person." Then they actually they wanted. I wasn't expecting that.
Hmm.
This can be a false positive
Yeah.
because it could be a market of one. It's not probably not just a market of one, but you don't want it to be a market of one. You want it to be a market of hundreds or millions or billions of people. Who knows, right? So depending on what you're trying to do, you need to, yes, have a process that you can follow to talk to lots of people, so that you get validation. You realize you're working on the right thing. You realize you're building something today for maybe a small subset, but
Hmm.
tomorrow could be the majority of humanity.
Yeah, I know, 100%. And what's worse is like those founders that don't value talking to customers, or they're scared, or they don't know how, and they
Mhm.
just start building based on the idea in their head. I've seen that happen a ton of times where
Yeah.
they're
And
like,
I made a
"Oh."
mistake too. In my first startup, I was looking for confirmation, right?
Hmm.
I was just looking for some people to say, "Oh, that's really great. That's really cool." And whereas when people were saying like, "Here's why I wouldn't use that,"
Hmm.
I didn't lean enough into the negative feedback because it's painful, because you're looking for stuff that's going to make you feel good, right? Our brains, our bodies are designed to avoid like bad stuff, right? This is
Yes.
so we have to work against our own like human nature to like
Yeah.
lean into like, right, tell me what would this need to look like, or who would this need to be for to be useful, and what would you be willing to pay, and or what should something like this cost, not what you would be willing to pay, because people are always like sandbag you there. But
Yeah.
like the way you pass the mom test, as it's called, of
Yeah.
asking certain open-ended questions where people are giving feedback and helping you directionally with where your business should go, as opposed to that like warm blanket of confirmation saying like, you're so smart. It's such a great idea. And so, you're gonna be really successful. I'm sure like lots of people want this.
A lot of, that book that you mentioned, The Mom Test, a great book. I recommend
Yeah.
all founders who are, doing customer discovery and customer interviews because it really helps you get out of your own head because a lot of us have an ego and we're all like, yeah, my idea is going to be $1 billion idea and change the world. But then we don't want to, actually ask the questions, the tough questions and take the criticism,
Yeah.
you know?
Right. And because I'm sure we can sit here and mention a lot of companies that have pivoted.
Mhm.
And like if you're watching this later on YouTube, know that YouTube started as a dating app
Oh,
before
wow.
it became right, like that was what they thought they were going to use it for, like video dating,
Yeah.
right. I'm sort of generalizing or simplifying the idea, but that's okay. That's not what it was. And the first version of the video platform was something that looked more like TikTok, like here I am, like going for a walk outside,
Yeah.
right? Like as opposed to then all the different things from streaming to episodes of stuff to to shorts to all the things that you could see this platform, if
Mhm.
you're watching this on YouTube, look like. And I
Mhm.
think that's fine, right? Your business and your product will go through evolutions, but that means you need to be open to change right from day one.
Mhm.
And pivoting not just based on like anywhere the wind will blow you, but based on data. And that data is really valuable if it's coming from people who will actually pay you something to use your product. Why? Because that is the real market. It is that exchange of something of value for what you have produced.
People forget that about business, right? The point
Oh,
of a business is to make money. And like
yeah.
a lot of founders don't have that sales mindset at the beginning. They're just kind of
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I want to do this because the technology is cool, or this is the trend, or
Yeah.
this is what's in, but they don't think about how to actually provide something of value to customers.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
how can they start having that better mindset, you know?
Right. And it's always situational, right? So I was with an accelerator yesterday in Palo Alto, and one of the founders who is building a B2B product was saying like, hey, should we be doing free pilots and POCs, because people will say, oh, we don't have budget for this, but I really want to like get into the account, and maybe we get these logos and stuff like that. And it's like you really have to ask yourself who is willing to pay you something. It does,
Mhm.
it might be it might be hard. Like this, it is hard to say, yes, we don't want, this Fortune 50 brand, on our website, right? It
Yeah.
would look good. It would send such a great signal to others potentially. But if they're not serious, they're gonna like consume your time and your team's attention. Maybe you'll even like get product signals for them, and then they're not gonna buy. Like it doesn't matter if they're glamorous. You want to show momentum of people who are trialing and converting and paying you for your product. And even if it's the earliest days where the product is not complete, you have so much more to go on your roadmap in terms of features, like they value at least that V1, right?
Oh, mhm.
So that is, I think, something that comes up even with people I know who have experience and they're in the market and they're getting in the door to talk to like top brands in the world. There's the temptation at every moment to like do something that
Yeah.
doesn't monetize.
Yeah, because they want to get in the door. And it's so hard to get in the door with a lot of these B2B companies, these corporate companies. And the logos really help with social proof and getting this startup off the ground. But the ultimate validation is that company actually paying you to solve their problem. If you're actually solving a problem worth solving, then they'll pay you for that. And then from the beginning. And
Yeah,
it's so hard because we're a startup and we don't feel like we're worthy enough sometimes of that business. But yeah, they got to get
yeah.
that mindset for sure, man. Absolutely.
Once you get paid, it's infectious. Like it's hard to then you know uh,
Yeah.
go back to like giving stuff away because you're going to then say, well, then it's going to cost you more later or something, right? Like you've got
Yeah.
to make sure it's that real exchange of value.
And for an investor, like as from an investor's perspective, you want to see that early traction. You don't want to see a bunch of free customers. You want to see, like that the companies are willing to pay, right? So,
Yeah, and so we've seen various business models over the last few years emerge, right? Like so freemium was really popular for a while, and then now we hear about product-led growth. Sometimes freemium and product-led growth are like reflections of founders believing like we're not good enough,
mm,
right? Sometimes freemium makes sense because you want these free customers to convert, and it's actually very inexpensive and free to offer it to them. And maybe the product like
hmm
is something that they get virally, and that's great. So when you have like a freemium product-led growth thing and it doesn't cost a lot, that's fine, right? But look at today's LLMs, right? So
hmm
those are freemium products. Like anyone can sign up for a free ChatGPT, Claude, whatever account, and these are amazing things, right? That blew us all away the first time we started like asking questions and doing things with them. The thing is, they're not free to those companies, right? And VC dollars are right now underwriting that.
hmm
But be sure that one day these things will not be free.
Yeah.
That we will have given so much data and they either they will have become more valuable as a result, or we or the data and the things that we get used to doing with them are so sticky that we can't avoid paying money for them down the road.
That's right. Yeah, that's the ultimate scary thing. I was a
Yeah.
free user on ChatGPT for so long. I finally converted and I'm like, oh, it's just too good now. So
Yeah.
hopefully hopefully it doesn't get to the point where everyone has to pay like this super crazy amount.
Right. Well, in in Silicon Valley, there is the saying: either you are the customer or you are the product.
Mm, hmm. That's true. Very, very
Yeah.
true. And with all this data that they're giving them, that data ends up being more valuable than $20 or whatever per month for per user. So
Quite
that's
possibly. Yeah. I mean, that's what, and because maybe they're serving ads, they're doing different things, right? On top of that, that's why Google and YouTube can make money, even though most of the users are not paying for a premium type of account, right?
that's right.
Um, and that so this is true from cycle to cycle through different technology ways, and we haven't seen it truly emerge yet here, but I mean, it will, right?
Mhm.
As these products become so robust, complete, and linked to our lives, we will end up either paying for them, or they will pay, or our data will pay for itself.
Exactly. I heard that there's a new thing that everyone's talking about. It's AI, like AI search SEO and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Like,
geo.
yeah, Geo,
Yeah,
that's what it's called. Okay, excellent. Yeah.
yeah,
All this new technology and stuff coming out so quickly, it's hard to keep up, right? Cool, man.
yeah.
So I wanted to actually transition to your book and the funding framework, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about the overall message from that book? Yeah.
Yeah. So the funding framework says that you need systems, not serendipity, in order to raise money. And the good news is that fundraising is a learned skill. Like,
Mm,
there's a lot of things you're going to start to do when you start your business. And one of them is selling, right? Like, this is a weird, uncomfortable thing if you've never done it before. So is going to be hiring people. You don't know how to hire people, but you're going to, guess what, become good at it the more you do it. The same is true of fundraising. This is something we can all learn and become good and learn about. So in the funding framework, the way that you approach this skill is that you look at the thing you have to do and not ask the question like, okay, Lee, trying to raise money for my company. Who can you introduce me to? Which is what a lot of people come to me and ask. And that
mhm.
is actually the wrong question. It doesn't begin with who. It really begins with what and why. And
Mm,
what I mean by that is you have to tell an irresistible and memorable story about what you're doing. And why is that? Because and this is why, like, I have on the cover of the book a iceberg, because what you read in TechCrunch or see on social media is this company like raised all this money, hooray! What you don't see is all the stuff behind that
mhm.
iceberg, or below that iceberg, which is storytelling, amazing organization, outreach to the right people, and closing with confidence. And so, yes, you have to tell an irresistible story, because that's the only way you, as a founder, are going to get an investor somewhere to say, we need to bring you in to meet the rest of our team. I want you to like meet our partners, or like, I have a syndicate of angels, and I can put in a little bit of money, but I'd like to bring in others, right? So when something is that good, people will tell their friends, their partners, whomever, right? So that's what you want to do. You want to be that good. Why? Because if you're not, someone else is, and everybody is looking to invest in the top 1% of founders they meet. If you are like okay, then you're probably not like the type of person they're going to decide to back, right? So the good news is you tell great stories, and great. I have a formula about great stories. I'm going to go into that in detail if you like, but like that like puts you at the top. Now, your story isn't something you just like rush out in the street and tell to everyone. You actually want to do a lot of preparation up front. It's a little bit different from like saying, well, I'm going to like, vibe code a prototype, and I'm going to show you and validate my business, and then I'm going to build like our thing, and then we're going to build features later. You actually want to have, like this, all your ducks in a row, because
Mhm.
you have to have a great, a robust data room. You need to have like a couple of kinds of slides, a teaser deck, a full deck. You have to like tell that story really well through that. But in addition to like these artifacts, this deck, this data room, you need to have initial list of people you'd like to talk to, and maybe firms. And then you have to plan outreach. And planning outreach doesn't mean like, oh, I really respect this VC firm, I want to reach them or anyone there. That's a bit like saying like, oh, the Mayo Clinic is a top hospital, I'd like to be seen by any physician there. Like there's no, you want to meet a specialist in the field for perhaps the condition that you want to have treated, right? So like that's very true within like any great firm. There's going to be a partner who specializes in your kind of company, who like has a thesis and has written about or talked about these types of things. So the outreach part is about reaching individuals through warm introductions, through like different types of means by which you can develop a rapport, and then you have a meeting which is your meeting. It's about your company. Yes, they've invited you to their office, but it doesn't mean you sit there while they interrogate you. This isn't school, right? You're there to like interview them as much as them you, and have a conversation. The thing I coach founders on is every time you get a question, you have to force yourself to ask a question back. So
Mm.
if they say like, oh, what are the terms in this round? Like, well, we're looking for the market to tell us really where they should be. But I know the median round size last year was, with, for a seed round at a valuation cap of, whatever, however $1 million. What are you seeing in the market, right?
Mm.
And then when they say, yeah, we really see companies like this, like growing really fast, like they triple revenues and they triple revenues again. And it's like, how do you as a firm support your portfolio? And then they ask, can you, what are you projecting? You tell your projection. Then you say, how are you as a firm helping your portfolio companies be more successful?
Mm.
Not, can you help me hit these goals? Because maybe you can, maybe you can't. But like, again, you're throwing the question back, like, what are you going to do? What can you do for me? Right. So like, this is where it goes from being an interrogation to a conversation, a real dialogue, and you manage the room to do that, which is again a skill. And if you're going to need to do that, certainly when you're raising money. You're going to do that when you're in a sales meeting and you're talking to the head of procurement, maybe the like somebody who's the chief information security officer, or like someone who is on that team. There's going to be more than one people there, and they're going to ask you questions. And then if they say like, tell me about your data and privacy policies, and like, yeah, what do you say, what do you expect from companies that work with you, right? Like, and like how, or what would you like to see beyond the SOC 2 compliance, whatever it looks like. So again, this is a technique that comes up, and this is why I say outreach, not spam, not spray and pray, not pitching, because
Mm.
pitching is just like me talking, and it's not the opportunity for us to have a conversation.
Really, really, there's so much to unpack there, but
Yeah.
the thing that
And I have one more part though,
yes, please.
which is closing. And closing seems like kind of obvious. Wait, we just did all this stuff. We got a term sheet. They said, they went through diligence. They said yes. And then we said, okay, good. You're going to lead the round. I got the other investors, because that's also another part of outreach, is to corral the other investors to follow the lead investor. Great. Everyone will just send me money, right? It's like, no, like this is like actually one of these things where you have to aggressively project manage the close at the very end, with a checklist and a date and a process, and like over communicating, reaching out to people and doing certain things so that you get your money, because the deal's not done until the check clears the bank.
A lot of people think that, oh, they said they're going to fund me, but they actually don't. They change their mind or something like that, right? So,
Yeah, silence and time is your enemy. So that's why you need to run a 10 to 12 week process, start to finish, by saying we're only taking meetings for 2 weeks, or could be 3. You're going to take like second meetings, and then you're going to like choose a lead, and then you can do this, and then this is where we need the money, and I have to do it in this time frame. Why? Because it's now September. People have come back from Labor Day weekend and Burning Man, and now they are taking meetings, and they're going to like have this extreme like pace, of which they need to like scrutinize deals and get things done, because by Thanksgiving, end of November-ish, that's it. People are going to be out of pocket, and they're going to like not pay attention to your emails. So you have to like run this gauntlet and do it in this tight time frame in order to raise money.
so many insights from that. That's really incredible stuff, man. I want to talk about storytelling and the
Yeah.
importance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because from my work here in Japan, I help founders with their pitching and soft skills. And one of the things that we focus on is storytelling because, people get up there and they just say the facts about their startup and they expect the audience to connect with them without putting themselves in the audience's shoes or the investor's shoes. So, how can founders tell better stories?
Yeah. So most founders are taking the structure of their deck and using that as a communication device. And the structure of the deck probably looks like, here's the problem, here's the solution, here's the market, here's the team, here's what we're asking for. And then, there might be some derivative of that. And I think that's not the way we as humans tell stories.
Mm,
If you're a fan of the book Sapiens, right, like that communication is the thing that makes us most human, and specifically a certain type of communication, our ability to describe really abstract things. So whether I'm talking about the role of money in society or God or the principles of an art form like ballet, it doesn't matter. Like I'm describing something really abstract, and that our ability to understand that as humans is great. So what are the keys there? There is a technique of storytelling that all the great stories have in common, and
mm,
they really transport you to another world where
mm,
you connect with the the story itself.
mm,
And what do I mean by that? That is the hero's journey. This works across cultures. This works across like languages, and it is the basis of all myth and legend from ancient times to all like great books from and movies. So whether it's Harry Potter or The Lord of the Rings or Toy Story, Star Wars, like these stories have the same damn thing in common. It starts with like, here's someone and something happens in their life and they're thrust into this world in which they are being tested. And now someone comes to them, often a guide, or maybe it's a an object, a tool that like helps them to succeed, and then they're able to overcome that difficulty, and then they go back to life before their world transformed. Now,
mm,
what might that mean? Like, you might say, well, we don't do that. We just like help people to get their work done. So because we're making accounting software, but I could tell a story of, here's Lee, and every year for the past 3 years, he has missed the holidays. Why? Because they're closing the books at his company, and he's working 7 days a week, and he's missing this very precious time with friends and family. And this year, there's totally new compliance regulations that come in, and it might mean that not only is he spending more time in the office, but they might miss their like end of year closing deadline.
mhm,
And this is going to make him and their company have a lot of challenges because they miss like a filing date and problems like that. The auditors are angry and everyone's pointing their fingers and right. But now he has this new AI tool that allows him to take all the new rules and regulations around accounting and public company reporting. I'm just making this up, right?
yeah, yeah.
And now he's home at 5 o'clock and he's making plans with his family to go to go out on New Year's Eve. And this is a simple story and it's not very complicated. But we went through the same like hero's journey. I could have said that you were living in a small desert town, and then one day something happened and you met these droids, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi like showed you how to like to do this and use the force, and right, like that's the same like kind of thing.
Right.
And like you went back to things like happily ever after, but now with this new power and this new capability, right? So you can tell this story, and now I've connected to the problem and the solution in a very emotional way. And like we often think business is very serious, and that it does mean it's emotional. Trust me, it's emotional. Like I either trust you or I don't in order to work together or something like that, right? So we have to connect at that level in order to feel things, in order to then understand this problem costs like 1 million man hours a year. People spend like an additional like $5 billion on additional like accounting and financial like consulting services, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Here's the size of the market we're going to like take over.
Yep.
And here's how our solution is better than anything out there, because we do it in a way that integrates with our existing like systems, and it require, people are able to deploy it immediately, whatever is really good. And we deliver the service at a fraction of the cost of expensive consultants who are not always available to like help you sort through this knowledge. And so like that's a way in which you can talk about the problem and the solution in the same way, but now it has a whole new significance and meaning, because I know at the other end there's a buyer, there is a human who at the other end of this exchange, who is thinking about how their life is better because they're in business with you and they have bought your product and service, and they're going to tell their friends, and who are going to wonder, why aren't I coasting along while where others are and who are using this product, right? So that's a little like snapshot of how in one way storytelling does transform the connection with the audience, no matter who it is. Like you could have the crustiest, grumpiest VC who is like totally left brain thinking and is just like, yeah, just tell me the market and why it's really big and how this works and why you're a great founder. But if they don't in the first 30 seconds decide that this is interesting, like, or I'm invested emotionally in some level, like what's going to happen to Lee? Like even if I know nothing about accounting, I'm like, I hope that, wow, what's going to happen, right? Like that what's going to happen thing is like why every like TV show like ends before the commercial break at like a suspenseful moment, right? So we again, these are not like necessarily secrets, but it's not always obvious that we can employ these techniques in order to convey a really high stakes message so that people who don't know us can start to believe in what we're doing and building.
Everything that you just said is incredibly powerful, man, because, storytelling, we've been hardwired to, understand stories and remember stories for thousands of years. That's
Mhm.
how human society progressed from cave paintings on the wall to early language, like everything. So, yes, I 100% agree. Any audience will connect with the protagonist a lot better than just seeing data and charts and
Yeah.
graphs and stuff, right?
Do you know what? One of the things that I realize it stops people from doing this. They hear a lot about how VCs and media like talk about, oh, this person's really great and they have this background, they did this thing. So founders come into the room saying like, so I've been working on AI and machine learning for 10 years, and we studied this and we did that. And so while I was at General Motors, we decided there was this problem related to like, self-driving cars. And so they start telling their story.
Yeah.
But even though you might be brilliant and talented, people don't care as much as they do about the third-party protagonist in the story that you're telling, because like it's just our nature is to know what happened to that person. And when you
Mhm.
put your customer at the heart of that story, it matters a lot. And I've tried this like a couple different ways, like with a medical imaging company, where their story was, there's a child that breaks their arm and goes into the emergency room, and like you want to know what's going to happen, are they going to be okay, right? And like trying it different ways, right? Like you can try that story, or you can, and like maybe your technology is the hero, like that saves them, but better, like there's a physician there, right? There's this doctor, and she like is, she's backed up and she has to see patient, and now a new person has come in, and this child is in pain because they fell off the swing or whatever. And like what can they do? Well, rather than wait for access to like this normal imaging device, there's this other thing they can come in and they can do this really quick, and they can find the bone that break, and basically you create these couple different stories, and then you test it out, and you find, and usually when you make the customer the hero, and I'm saying the customer, right? This is the physician or the person who's using your product, the hero,
Mhm.
like it's more powerful, because you're like, wow, what was their secret weapon? What was their superpower? Their superpower was your imaging technology. Their superpower, right? Why they came and got a promotion, save the day, was that they had used your, accounting compliance rules, AI dashboard, right? Like whatever it was, like and it's like everybody should have the superpower, and we're going to bring it to 100,000 practitioners in their field, like over the next 3 years, like gets people's like head swooning because they want to know how are you going to do that. Well, let me tell you. Here's our go-to-market plan. Here's like why our team is the best in the world to do this. Like so many things that can follow, but you have someone's attention and they want to know. They want to know the how.
In a world that's always, competing for attention, we need to be able to, when we have an investor or a customer or potential, employee in that moment, we have to be able to grab their attention, and stories are the best way to do it, right? The best way. So I 100% agree with everything you said there. And, some people might say, oh, how do I fit in my, competition slide here? Those are your villains. Those are the people that you're, competing against. Make it exciting, right? The
Yeah,
data, the
exactly.
data that are driving the problem, that just supports the story. Those are the challenges that you're going to overcome to obviously help the protagonist get through and become
Uh-huh.
victorious. And
Exactly.
I love how you said about making the customer the hero of the story,
Mhm.
because then you can use that deck not just for, investors, but also customers when you're selling to them,
Yes,
you know?
absolutely. Yeah, it becomes like your pitch that it's so good the customer repeats it to their boss, their head of procurement, their colleagues, the people in other companies, right? Like it works for because that's the one that gets repeated.
And oh, if a founder's like, oh, I have no idea how to tell stories, blah, blah, blah. Well, why don't you ask your customers what they've been going through? They're going to tell you a story about the problem that they're having. So
Yeah.
the more people you talk to, the more ICPs you
Mhm.
can come up with. And it leads
Yeah.
really well into the ICP or customer persona section where it's like, okay.
Yeah, I can share a link with your with your audience about founder-led sales and like how you can really unlock that is by listening. And when you stop pitching and start listening, a whole like a lot of good things happen. Specifically, there are certain keywords like they will actually tell you where their pain point is and what the value is. So, for example, they talk about, oh yeah, we're trying to avoid like doing this, or this is really risky, and then or we want to save money here, or we should be selling more per customer, like if they are buying a painkiller or a vitamin, right? Like what very quickly like what they value. So if they're looking for something that is lower cost, or this happens really fast, or we need to compare, or we're usually late on this, like that's great. So if someone is complaining like, hey, my tax filings are usually, late, they're after this deadline, this is really bad, right? They care about quality and speed. You don't tell them that it's like, oh, we're 10% cheaper. They don't care, right? Because your value proposition has to be about being good and fast. And that is, like kind of the shorthand to listen for how you want to like um, position your business in terms of this is what we do, this is the job to be done, another important framework for people, and here's why it's better than anything else because we are fast and high quality, right, and that's what people want and that's what they're hearing.
Storytelling is super important, and it leads really well into the outreach section, right? So
Yeah.
what process do you think is best for founders to have consistent outreach?
What would be the best process of consistent outreach? So I find if you need to have like some sort of like basic like CRM. If on the investor side, you're tracking the firms that are on thesis and the individuals at the firm that like invest in your kind of deal and stuff like that. And then similarly, like if they are companies that are on
Mhm.
thesis, and maybe you picked a particular market where um, these companies make sense and you think that it's this industry because they're not just in a big TAM, but they're open to new ideas, and you can see people like trying to adopt technologies to enhance their business, and there's probably like some awareness of the problem. What you don't want is to develop like outreach and lists and things to tell people who are not aware of their problem that they have a problem and they should do something about it. Why? Because this is what founders do. They believe the world needs to change, and so they say, well, we just need to do some customer education. I
Yeah.
cringe when I hear customer education because I have watched so many smart people who know that they're smart people go and tell their dumb customers, like, let me tell you, like, why this is really important. And we need to show you how to use this. And we need to like make sure you get this. It's like you need to educate. If you have to explain, you're losing, right? Like you
Yes.
want people who have a problem and they're aware of the problem, and even better, they've decided they want to do something about it, and even better than that, they have like allocated a budget to go after that.
Yep, exactly. I've heard that a couple times too, where it's like, oh, we just need to educate the customers. I'm like, okay, do you have the budget for that? You have the time for that? Do your customers have the time for that? Do they want to hear that? Or will they choose
Yeah.
a competitor that has made their product obvious and easy to get? I think they're going to choose that way, you know?
Mm-hmm.
God, yeah, that's a
Yeah,
big mistake.
problematic. Yes, yes, absolutely. So that is where, like, yes, outreach to people who know that you're addressing their fundamental needs and they can appreciate, and even if they don't know they have the need, when they see what it can do, they understand, like, oh, that's exactly what can help us with this, because they have a job to be done, which is why that's a really big part of what I see as the value proposition template that, you know, many people would use, which is, you know, company X with product Y, with job to be done Z, right? Like and a job to be done is not, you know, CRM, right? That is again a product, right? Like the job to be done has to be like reach as many customers as we can a month, right? Like that is like it is a goal, and it has a verb in it, right? Or it can be like, you know, or organize our customer list, right? So, and then it's different than anything else that's out there because of ABC, and those ABCs have to be value pillars that align to the keywords and the pain points, or the aspirations that are priorities of the customer.
There's so much to learn as a founder, and there's so many
Always learning.
there's a conflicting information everywhere. You get like there's a
Mm-hmm.
democratized information in the internet where you just have all these sources and podcasts and all these things that you can learn from. But then as a founder who's also trying to build, like it's sometimes hard,
Yes.
to
Yeah.
yeah.
It's so hard. You can spend all your time consuming the founder noise, right? It's like, oh, I'm taking this course, and I'm gonna watch this podcast, and then I'm going to like, you know, read all these like Substacks. But you can spend all your time just being a full-time student of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
But like anyone who's taken an entrepreneurship class will tell you, it's really different from when we, you know, in, let's say, business school or wherever you took the course, to then like going out there and making something and like being heard, being told no like 1,000 times, and what that, because that's when you're now an entrepreneur. You're trying to do something totally new with inadequate resources and with people who don't believe in you yet.
Well, that's actually a great point. A lot of people who maybe have ADHD, dyslexia, or like learning problems end up being really great entrepreneurs because it
Absolutely.
doesn't work for them. They just go out and do things and mess up. They've done that their whole life. So yeah, I don't know if you can say anything about that, but
Oh yeah, I think that's true. Like it's really it's really that thing. It's like you have to be okay with like falling down, right?
Mhm.
You get it, right? Like there's all these painful metaphors about entrepreneurship. It's like eating glass. It's like getting punched in the face all the time, right? Like no reasonable person would sign up for this.
No.
So yes, like maybe you've had some life experience that makes you think like this is not so bad,
Hmm. Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And that can be, you know, maybe you had a number of struggles you overcame in your childhood. Maybe you were an immigrant. Maybe you had a learning disability. Like there's so many, you know, you you look at this and be like, oh, I can do this, something new. Like people I don't know, like build a thing I can't, like no one's imagined yet. I guess like won't know till I try.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. And I love that, seeing those stories of people who come from nothing or immigrant families or things like that and really building successful companies because yeah, it really is the, obviously entrepreneurial dream to do that,
yeah.
right? But so many companies fail. And in your experience as an investor, you've probably seen many different reasons why companies have failed and startup teams have failed. In your experience with dealing with founders, what is, the number one reason why they fail?
So there's the official, like statistically recorded thing, which is, oh, people this come like 24% of companies fail according to CB Insights because there's no market need,
Mhm.
right? That is true, and yet there is something that doesn't get captured by the statistics. So if you didn't like launch the product on time, you didn't ship fast enough, you didn't do these things, it's why, and why did this other company do it? Or you didn't succeed in fundraising or something. It's because usually there was a high degree of team dysfunction.
Mm.
Team dis right? So what does that mean? I mean, like co-founders that don't work yet. There's so many companies that break up. Like the breakup rate is higher than like anything. If you compare the breakup rate to like the you know people going out of business because they didn't like get the next round of funding or something, you can see like how correlated that is. Like I think there's just a lot of like issues in terms of communication, which is the foundation of trust, right? This is like not just true in like founders, it's true if you're in uh, a
Relationship, right?
relationship, like you're married or you have significant other, right? Like high quality communication creates trust, and without that trust, then what do you do? Like people don't do things that the other person values, or you create distrust through poor culture, and then eventually like not hitting results. Like people think it's the other way around. Like, oh, we just have to nail these results, and then we will like have a harmonious culture, and everyone will have high quality communication and all those things. We used to find in my past life that you could tell several weeks into an accelerator program, like which teams were going to like really make it to the end of the accelerator and have
Mhm.
and be able to like finish and graduate like properly, because there was somewhere, you know, the CTO is angry because the CEO doesn't respect them, or like the CEO is like mad because the CTO isn't like building this thing and they want to promise these features and go out and sell this stuff, right? And this sounds like very obvious, but that's actually every company like has these like mismatch of expectations, and that gap between expectations and reality is where like people get frustrated, or they take this as a moment to say like, I think we're struggling here. What can we do about it? Like, what can I do to support you? Right? Like that's what you would do in a extremely highly functional relationship where you care about the other person. Particularly if you're founding a business with somebody and you're probably spending more hours of the day with them than you are with your loved ones or friends or or kids or whatever. So I do like think that the quality of communication is the biggest indication of team high functioning or dysfunctioning behavior, and whether or not you're going to have a high trust environment that allows all these other good things to happen.
Yeah.
So that's
Communication.
my long answer to your question. What's the number one thing why companies fail? It's like they have bad internal communication. They don't trust each other.
And 100% I agree with regards to it not being a statistic that's, captured. And it's something that goes under the radar. And it's kind of like this thing that nobody really talks about because it's awkward and they don't know how to communicate in the first place, so they can't talk about it. And that's a
No
big.
one wants to communicate that. They want to blame the market.
Mhm.
They want to blame the investors. They want like say, oh, this big tech company, they crushed, they didn't play fair, and like this wasn't our time, like right. But if you ask yourself this question, this is like a coaching question a lot of times, is what have I done or what am I doing that contributes to this situation? Not like this is all of my fault and I should like hate myself, and but rather like what's my role and how might I be making this part of my own reality when I don't even want it to be, right? And it starts with that acknowledgement in ourselves in order to get to an ability to be better for and with others and for them to reciprocate.
I feel like as a coach, sometimes we're like kind of mini therapists as well. Like it's like a therapy session. We're like working through problems that are obvious to us, but not so much to them. We have to kind of like elicit out some of those.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I feel the distinction is like real therapy is about like addressing things that have happened to you
Yeah.
and like try and it's usually rear view mirror focused.
Mm.
And where the coaching is it acknowledges your reality, okay, but it's way more proactive in terms of like what are the choices you want to make now to create a different reality in the future. And so I think therapy is really valuable. I've benefited. I know other people who have too, from that ability to like heal something.
Mhm.
And then coaching, which is not clinical, and we're not certainly qualified that way, can be an unlock to like a whole bunch of future potential and possibilities. And that's what I'm excited to help people create, because I feel there's plenty of technology, there's enough capital in the world. Our problem, to whatever we're trying to address,
Mm.
is the quality of leadership. So
Mm.
whether you're building a company, you're leading an organization, you're trying to change your community, the quality of your leadership you have there is an unlock to so many things, or the lack thereof blocks anything.
I have a question about like coaching in general, right? So,
Yeah.
as a founder working on a product for the first time, maybe a first time founder has no idea like what to do. How important is it to find a mentor, find a coach, and where can one even look for those of people?
Yeah. I think working on yourself is important. You're trying to like focus so much energy on the business that you think that's what you need to optimize for. But some of the wisest founders I've met realize they are the single biggest point of failure, particularly in the early days. The irony is that's when you have probably the least resources and feel like you have the least time to go and do that for yourself. But when you say I'm doing this not for myself but for the sake of the business, then you know what? I need a mentor who is someone who is not just a few years ahead of me and has been in my shoes, but is willing to take the time to help. Right. And that's someone who can be a sort of guide and they're sharing their experience from their perspective, right? As opposed to a coach who is going to like spend time with me and my reality and help me find my answers, so that I can find decisions. Now, this is hopefully not totally directive coaching, because and you want to really like look at the coach's credentials to
Mm.
understand like are they going to coach in a way that is non-directive for my not specific issues, but at the same time you share their knowledge and wisdom in ways that are they're qualified or experienced to do so. Because there are a lot of people who will say they're coaching and advising and so forth, but they don't really have any business coaching advising on any specific like technical or business aspects. But that's kind of the thing. It's like traditional coaching should be should be helping you find your answers as opposed to like some generic thing, if unless they've done it before. So
Right.
get advice from people who have done it before, get coaching from people who are credentialed in the discipline of helping you find your answers, and get mentorship from people who are there to guide you based on their lived experience.
You brought up a good point about the difference between directive and non-directive coaching. I think that directive's more advice, right? It's kind of like, they're giving
Uh,
advice based on their experience of what they would do in this situation, but non-directive is actually more powerful in some instances because
yeah,
it's
and
pulling it from you, right?
yeah, and I got into non-direct or added non-directive coaching to what I do because founders do whatever they want.
Yes.
You can tell them something and they will still do the other thing because they are so in it. This is most like it's like trying to tell sometimes like a really like frustrated child go do something, like they're just in a mental state where they don't want to, right? Like you're and I respect and admire that, and these are my people, I love them. But like that's why I realized directed coaching of like, oh, you need to go do this thing. It's like no, they would rather try and fail first
Mm.
before they know they have to do the thing, right? So instead, use non-director coaching to go and explore the possibilities, and then ask them what might be the options, and then like what are the next steps, and then how will you know, and then what else might be true. So they unpack the options and they make their own choice. That's the thing. It's like it's up to them at the end of the day. But you use like techniques to help people who are very independent minded, as they should
Mhm.
be, to come out with these kinds of things.
Yeah, self-realization is, obviously the best way, and that's great
Yeah.
that you do that. Absolutely. Well, Vijay, we spoke so much about, funding and some of the mistakes
Yeah.
founders make and how they can, go about funding and fundraising the right way with your framework. And we also talked about, coaching and a lot of other topics. Is there anything that we didn't speak about that you think we should have spoke about?
In addition to funding, in addition to like selling, there's scaling people.
Mm,
And I think, and this is what I consider the startup system. It's like it is fundraising, there's sales, and then how you scale people, of course, then build KPIs and metrics to go and do the whole thing over again.
mm,
But on the scaling of people, it starts with scaling yourself. So when you start the company, you call yourself the CEO, but you're the chief everything officer. You're not really the
yeah.
executive of anything, right? And then people imagine one day I'm going to be a CEO and we're gonna like have this big company, right? But the middle step is really hard. Nobody knows what it looks like. And what I've found helping and working with a lot of founders, and what is there's a phase where you have to start being the chief enablement officer. And
Mm,
enablement is one of the 6 types of working genius. And many founders don't may not have it, right? They may be great at thinking of new things or rallying and galvanizing people, or they may have tenacity, which the 6 types of working genius are wonder, invention, discernment, galvanizing, enablement, and tenacity, right? So they may not have enablement. It's like the thing that stops them from going to the next step. So you build a team, and then you enable them to do some things and more things for themselves and by themselves, and to be independent, to create operation leverage for you, and then later time and space for you to like think about the next phase of the company and build it and take on new roles and responsibilities. So chief everything officer, chief enablement officer, chief executive officer are like those stages that I've experienced like people need to move through in order to grow themselves in the process of growing that team.
I love that framework. That is amazing. It's so true, right? You have to be obviously the jack of all trades at the beginning, but then as you hire people, you need to empower them to help grow the business. It should be a 1 + 1 = 3 scenario where
Oh,
the
yeah,
more people you bring on, it's exponentially better than, what it could be by the sum of those two people. And then, yeah, then you can move into that executive once you have a great team. They say that hiring is like the CEO's job after a certain point. It's like the most
yeah,
important thing is talent, right? Finding great talent.
yeah. Right at the beginning, you're fundraising, you're selling, and you're hiring, and like the first 20 people you bring into the company are going to be culture defining,
Mm. Oh boy.
right? Yeah. So what do most people do? Like, oh, I need a thing. I need a person to do this. I'm bringing like someone I know. I'm gonna like get this person. They're a little like young. They're inexperienced. They don't know what they're doing, or they haven't done this before. But this is what we can do. And as opposed to like setting really high standards and maybe having a few like exceptional people who do things really well, because that attracts like more talent. And by the way, you do like many things. Like I've worked with founders who have like said, well, I have all these discrete tasks, and so I'm going to have a bunch of people working like part-time and this and that, and like I'm paying them with equity. And what happens is you have a lot of people doing a few things part-time, some of the time okay, not so well, and then you have like a business that's going on one cylinder.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. There's a great book called The One Thing that I think is really good for those type of people,
Yeah,
where they just
yeah,
focus on one thing and do it really well, I think is very important. And
yeah.
the same with the business. You don't want people who are, all over the place because the attention is not there, right?
It's really, really hard. And some of us are wired to do lots of things really well, or think we can. And we've maybe gotten by. And so it's really hard to like confront that and wind. And that's where a good coach can help in that middle stage, that
Mm.
enablement stage, is to like ask like, how are you doing on this thing?
Exactly. Yeah. Delegation is also something that is in that stage as well. We're able to delegate, but also empower them to
Yeah,
make their own decisions
Hmm.
The power, it takes a lot to, this is your baby, but giving a little piece of your baby to really talented people to make it grow bigger is huge skill.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I worked with one coaching client, and we talked about the Eisenhower decision matrix. So like, because part of that is delegating the things that are urgent and not important. And he actually took that, created a tool in Replit that basically like allowed his team to like think about this is our task and this is what we're going to prioritize P1 and P2, P3, P4, and like what we're going to do. And here you use this too, and you do decide and you decide. And I can see on the dashboard the things that are important and urgent, important, not urgent that you're doing, so that I can see if you're like maybe doing something that
Yeah.
feels urgent but isn't that important, like we can have a conversation about it, and you can defer or
Yeah.
delay that, and of course now in a world of agents we better be delegating things to AI. I think that's going to be increasingly common in the future. So I'm really excited about that, because that was again a resource and tool that wasn't available to scrappy founders with new startups.
So much we could unpack there. I am conscious of time as well, like AI in the future and how we're all going to work together. But
Right.
no, but Vijay, it's been a really insightful conversation today. I really enjoyed your
Super
time.
fun. Thank you,
Yeah,
Lee.
yeah, absolutely. So we do have a closing tradition where the last guest will have a question for you, and you'll leave
Mhm.
a question for the next guest. Are you ready?
All right, I'm ready.
All right, excellent. So your question is, what is your passion project? This is an easy one. What's your passion project? Something you're working on outside of work.
So one of the things that I've been passionate about outside of this coaching, and we touched about it, is creating a new type of way of building, funding, and growing companies. And that has been with partners at a firm called GAI Ventures.
Mm,
And we are today like in the middle of several incubations of
mm,
new companies that are agentic, building workflows in financial services, enterprise productivity, and commerce that we think allow us to build business that move way faster to product market fit, working with experts who are domain experts in the field. And unlike the rule where, okay, we need to have a technical co-founder, we serve as a technical co-founder. So I'm really excited about what we're going to be able to do there for many years to come.
excellent. Yeah, I saw that on your profile about venture building, and I've
Yeah,
come in, across that model a few times now here in Japan as well, and it's a really exciting, different way to get into entrepreneurship.
totally different. Yes, yeah.
Really cool. Awesome, man. So yeah, please give us a question for our next guest.
Question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the question for your next guest is, what do you want your legacy to be?
Ooh, I like that. That's a good one. Yes, yeah. Thinking about the long term, like imprint on the world, right? What do you want your legacy to be? I love that. That's a great one. Well, Vijay, jam-packed with insights about funding, startups, entrepreneurship in general. Like, I really appreciate your time today. If my audience wants to get in touch with you, if they want to purchase the funding framework, how can we do that? Yeah.
Yeah, funding framework is available where great books are sold online, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, like places like that, Ingram, Spark. Also, I have a Substack, which is Startup System Substack, and you can find me on LinkedIn as well as my website, mystartupsystem.com.
Awesome. I'm going to link all that in the description below. Again, once again, thank you so much, Vijay, for being a
My
guest
pleasure.
on the podcast.
Thanks, Lee. Super fun.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Product Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a like and subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, or leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps this channel grow. And if you are a product manager or a startup founder who wants to share your story or some of the struggles that you've gone through in your career, then definitely reach out to us. We'd love to have you on. And until next time, happy building, everyone.